There are two things we need to add to this body to finish it up. First of all, we need to add this pipe running around the cockpit, and secondly, we need to add all of these little strips of sort of rivets that go all the way around each of the panels to sort of connect them together, and also create sort of a little, I don't know, there's a little ridge that goes across each one of those. And so to add those, we'll use two separate processes, and we'll try to cover both of those in this video, but we'll see. So first of all, here we are in the unsmooth version of this mesh. To do the pipe around this edge, let's start here and just hit the up arrow. Whoops, not shift up, but grab this one, and then up arrow all the way around to get to the other side. And from there, first of all, I want to extend this up ever so slightly. And a good way to do that would be to go to the Edge tools and down to a tool called Grow Quads. You click that one. You choose a distance, and Auto Offset will just basically do the same distance as the adjacent polygon. Let me show you what I mean. Just do max smoothing angle 89.9 is fine. And hit OK. And that's going to extend this edge such that this edge is basically parallel to this one, and these polys are roughly the same size as the ones next to them, which is exactly what I wanted in this case. Now let's go back and select this edge loop, and I'm going to cut that and paste it back in so that it is not connected to the other mesh. Select all of that loop and then do a, let's go to Basic and Thicken. Click in the viewport. And I'm going to thicken that out slightly just by dragging the blue handle there. Something like so. And then we need to go inside as well. So let's select this edge loop. Oop, just this interior loop. We can actually delete these end polys because we don't need those on either side. And then get back in here, select this edge loop on the inside. And then head to the Deform tab and down to the Push tool, which is very much like an offset in CAD. Just kind of push that in. We'll do the same thing with this top loop, except we're going to push it down because I think this is a little bit too thick. So we'll just push this down slightly. Looks like that's not going to quite work for us. So I'm just going to W for move, because in this case, moving it down should be, for the most part, okay. Let's go to the right view and do a let's do a radial fall off around this area down here. That way I can move these down. Oh, let's move back to perspective. Looks like our sphere's not big enough. So let's go to the right view again. Sorry about that. Let's do a cylindrical instead. Then we'll move that cylindrical fall off down here. So we're just working with this bottom part. Then we can move that down. Excellent. Something like that. Drop our tool, move our fall off up here. W for move again, and I can move these over a little bit like that. Let's do it this way. That looks better. Excellent. So now we have this pipe running around. So if we shift tab, that looks pretty good. Got sort of a round pipe running around that edge. Not too shabby. Okay, so that piece is done. Now we want to add the little strips that run around all of the different seams. Now they're around most of the seams. We don't have one on this one, for example. So around here we're just going to have sort of an edge that rolls around. I believe this too will just roll around. Let's look actually at the layout here. Looks like okay, so we'll have a strip that runs around on either side of this, just to reinforce this, the hood, but it's not going to go across. Let me show you what I mean. So we'll go now to the Topo tab, make a new mesh for the seams to start with, and that's going to shade everything all nicely so we can get to work here. And we'll start with the Topo pen. Head right down to this seam. I'm going to control drag to create one poly. Let's just drag it right up here. We'll start right about there. And I'll shift drag this up. And we can just move this stuff up here little by little. Or if I want to, a quick way would be to take this, move it all the way up. Shift drag this edge out. Select both of those and do a loop slice. say make 8 of them. That looks pretty good. Then I could select all of these. Let's change my lasso mode to lasso. Select all of these verts and delete them. So now we have a nice clean strip. And now with this, I can just grab my topology pen, and if I anything that I move here, even a little bit, it's going to snap it to that background surface. The loop slice won't do that by default, but if I do it manually, it should be fine. Perfect. So now we have a strip that's going to represent the sort of weld strip that comes across here and connects all this stuff up. Now, this strip actually is a little different from all of the others in that it needs to continue up. This will actually go back to this background mesh. Let's take this loop here and just drag it forward some, because we need for our strip to come right up to it, like that. Okay, so we can go back to this guy. Now this strip needs to continue all the way across the top. And obviously snapping to this background mesh is going to be really hard. So if we show our topo mesh though, then we should be able to snap to that instead, or in addition. So now we have something to move across. So we go to the top view, start to pull this across, something like this. We only need to do half, so I'm just going to do half right up to about here. We can clean up that middle in a little bit. And then also, of course, we're going to want these things to be straight. So let's do that same trick we were doing before. I'll select this whole border, select and deselect the top and bottom edges of that. So these are two separate edges. R for scale, then in the model tab, of course, we'll go to mesh constraints, background, constrain to background, point, and set our action center to local. And then if I scale this stuff on the Z, it's going to scale each of those independently on its own selection center, right? So we're scaling this edge along its center and this edge along its center. So if we get those down to 0, then we'll end up with a very straight line for both of those at the same time. Really nice. Okay, so let's hide that topo mesh, and that is perfect. So now we have a strip that runs right up here. And that's where our plywood is going to come to. Our plywood is going to come exactly up to this front edge on the back. So let's take this, go all the way down, again to the other side. I actually just want to slide this forward. I'm just going to W for move and just move it forward a little bit so it's right in front of that edge there. That looks perfect. So now if I look at our reference again, there it is. So you have this strip that comes across the top. There's our plywood, and it just meets up perfectly there. So the rivets down here are connecting the back panel to this mid panel in the cockpit, and then up here they're connecting the back panel to the piece of plywood. Perfect. So now all we have to do is add the pipe, the ridge that goes across the middle of this thing. So all I would do is just select this, L for loop. And actually, you know what? We can actually just do a loop slice. So I'm just going to do Alt-C. Didn't need to do L for loop. We'll just do Alt-C and do a count of 2 across there. Then I can select this loop, L for loop. And let's do B for bevel. Click in the viewport. Just pull that out a little bit. Just a little. We could use the red handle to pull it in some as well if we want to. Remember, the bevel tool is going to create end polys here on both ends. We don't need those. We just need the ends to be open. In this case, delete those. And that should do it. Now, let's go back to our model tab just to make it easier to see what's going on here. And then if I hit Shift Tab on this, there we have a little bit of a rivet, or a little bit of the strip that the rivet is going to be connected to. Sorry. So we'll do that, and then we can use our Push tool under Deform to push this out a little bit so it's just outside the body. And that, friends, is just the kind of ridge that we need here. It looks pretty good. So we'll just push those to where we want them. Let's go ahead and do strips across just hiding each of these different areas. We're going to use the exact same method. I'm going to go back to my Topo tab here, grab my topology pen once again, drag across here. Looks like this is just wanting to land in the wrong place. Anyway, so we'll just pull this stuff across and repeat that process several times. Okay, so let's just speed through that.